Lies of P is one of the best Souls-like games, whether you include From Software in that conversation or not. So when I heard it was getting a DLC, I just assumed it would be on that same quality or even better. When it comes to Souls games in the past, the DLC is usually the best part of the entire game. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, okay, maybe not that one, but it's at least around the same quality, to me anyway. But Lies of P Overture is sadly a step back from the base game in basically every way. Now when you boot up Lies of P, the first thing you're met with when continuing or starting a playthrough is the new addition of difficulty options. This is extremely rare and odd to have in a Souls-like game, as a big part of what makes these games great is the sense of accomplishment you get when overcoming obstacles. Adding two new difficulty options, easy and even easier, is just wild to me. I'd understand one mode that scales down enemy health, damage, as well as increasing parry timings for players who are new to this style of game, similar to what the first Berserker Kazan did earlier in the year. But to add another mode lowering the difficulty even more is going too far and defeats the point of a Souls-like. Let's say someone decides to use this new very easy mode along with using summons, I feel like the game would just become trivial at that point, and they may not get the same level of satisfaction that everyone else gets when they play the game on its intended difficulty. There are already summons in the game for every single boss that offer an easier option to handling them and allows new players to get accustomed to the combat without drawing aggro from the boss the entire fight. This game design choice is available in pretty much every Souls-like game, because it works well and makes the games more accessible while still giving players some fulfillment from defeating a hard boss. Obviously the added difficulty options have no effect on my playthrough whatsoever, but it's just one example of how the team behind Lies of P has made odd decisions with this DLC. Anyway, enough whinging, what about the actual gameplay? Well, it hasn't changed much in Overture. There's a decent amount of new weapons to freshen up the combat a bit, but they don't differ much from other weapons available in the base game. What has changed, however, is the fact that your maxed out weapons tickle most bosses, and even regular enemies in the DLC. I can't remember how much health bosses had in the main game, but surely it didn't used to take this long to kill them. My fight with the second major boss in the DLC lasted a whole 5 minutes. I mean seriously, look at this shit. This is with a maxed out weapon and over level 100. The actual quality of the boss design, however, is very high. Most bosses are on par with what you'd expect after playing the base game. Markiona and the final boss are contenders for the top spot in both difficulty and quality out of any boss in the game. Two-Faced Overseer and Anguish Guardian were both pretty solid as well. So when you have multiple high quality bosses throughout the DLC, it would make sense to start with a bang and set the standard for what to come. You know, like get people excited and invested, right? I guess not, since they open with a reskinned Golden Hippo, even accompanied by the tiny arena we all know and love. This was a major letdown for the opening boss of the DLC. Not only was the boss fairly easy, it just wasn't fun to fight. It had me seriously worried that the DLC was a complete fumble. What a truly baffling decision to set the bar this low for your opening boss. It doesn't help that not only was the first boss bad, but the first level in general wasn't great. It's filled with annoying zoo enemies accompanied by a long ass run back to a mini boss that hits like a tank and takes fuck all damage. Even the 2 levels following this follow the same pattern of annoying enemies spammed everywhere, similar to Dark Souls 2. I especially hate these robots that sit up on the ledge and constantly lob rocks at you, while you're fighting a whole gang of enemies. Okay, so the first few areas aren't great, but what follows them really brought the DLC back for me. There's still a bit of enemy spam, but they're much more engaging to fight and well designed. Also, the actual areas themselves are fun to traverse and explore, accompanied by multiple well-written side quests that further invested me into the story of the game. Speaking of the game's story, once again we've taken a step back in quality compared to the base game. Lies of P was shocking for a Souls-like, as it really was the first one to tell an intriguing and coherent tale without just adding lore to item descriptions and letting YouTubers do the job for you. Don't get me wrong, I do like the approach From Software takes with their stories, as it allows the gameplay to take the main stage, which is the driving factor of these games. But Lies of P managed to convey a compelling narrative with fantastic characters that only added to the game's quality without sacrificing any attention from its gameplay. Sorry, I'm basically just reviewing the base game at this point, let's actually talk about the DLC. The DLC's story sees the player following the path of a legendary stalker named Leah. We don't see a lot of this character until later on in the game, and the story in general takes a back seat until the final area. It took me a while to actually begin to take interest in the narrative, as it feels quite bland at first, which is disappointing, as the story really does start to unfold and gets extremely good. But the problem is, that only happens in the final hour of the game. I've just spent over 10 hours not really invested in the story, and then out of nowhere, it's incredible. This switch up feels strange, as the story is forgotten for a majority of the game, There's a couple cutscenes and conversations with side characters here and there, which are great, but there's so little of it. In my playthrough I engaged with 3 short side quests with characters. One was a talking brain in a vat. Then there's the quest with the fisherman that pulls at the heartstrings quite a bit. Finally, the quest with the puppet girl actually had me tearing up. Because the DLC takes place back in time, she waits at this tree for you for so many years that when you finally visit her, she fucking dies.
You came. I knew you would. So happy to see you again. Friends always meet again. So I'll wait for you. Again at the world's end. Farewell. My forever friend.
Okay, I hope you've all collected yourselves. I know, pretty tragic shit. It's time to talk about one of my favorite aspects of Lies of P, which is its visuals. It's an Unreal Engine game, so of course it's graphically good, but the aesthetic of Lies of P is so unique, and I think it's due to the European steampunk vibe, which is very unique to this style of game. The DLC definitely stands up in the visual department, but as covered earlier, there's a lot of areas where this isn't the case. Overall, Lies of P Overture is a bit of a step down from the base game, and I am a bit let down. It's disappointing what the DLC offers when you consider the 2-year wait, and for a $30 USD price tag, I was expecting more content and higher quality. The base game is absolutely fantastic, so maybe it was wishful thinking that the DLC would be up to par, but this is Lies of P we're talking about. Even if it was a step down, it was still a very good experience overall. Multiple parts throughout the game gave me that same feeling from the base game, especially in the second half. It's just a shame that there were other parts that were lacking that brought down the overall experience. Rating wise, Lies of P would be an easy 9 out of 10, but the DLC sits at a generous 8 out of 10, as I did thoroughly enjoy my time with the game, but with a few different design choices and added content, this could have been an easy 9 or even a 10. But it is what it is, and what we got in the end was still pretty damn good. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, subscribe and like. Drop a comment below on what you thought of the Lies of P DLC, as I'm interested to see if others had similar takeaways to me, or if you think I'm completely tripping. Anyway, thanks again, see ya.